This is a view of Arch Rose Claire. I definitely need to prune a lot of these grapes back because they grow like crazy, especially now that the weather's cooling down. They're really starting to take over the garden again. I've had to prune them back several times throughout this whole home selling and home buying process. And there was a point where I even left the trellises almost completely bare after I harvested the grapes, and they still, as you can see, filled it like they were never pruned before. One thing that I do want to point out, and I'll try and bring you in closer to show you, it's kind of hard to see right now, but I know for a fact that there's more clusters of grapes forming. This is something that I've noticed over the last few years. Is I pruned the grapes in the late winter, early spring here in the low desert. And when I prune them, they're dormant. Once they break dormancy, they start creating grape clusters. And then those grape clusters grow and mature, and then during the summer I harvest them, and if I give the grapes a really hard prune again, I don't know if that triggers them again, but they start to produce more grape bunches. They don't produce as much as the first round, and the grapes a lot of the times don't have a whole lot of time to ripen before the grapes go dormant, but they do change color and they do grow. They're not as sweet, but they still produce a second round. So I wonder if I were to be a lot more calculated with when I give them that hard pruning, if I could get a second production earlier. There are some bunches right here on the flame seedless that I can show you, but I wanted to try and find some on the Thompson seedless. And so far I'm not able to like point any out, but I know that I've seen some. It's just that because they're green, they just blend into the foliage, and there's so many vines everywhere. But anyways, I thought that was something that was really cool that I noticed over the years. And at first I thought it was like a one-time occurrence, because when I tried to look it up online, I didn't see any sort of posts or videos or anything about grapes being able to produce a second time. I thought they only produced once. And then once they went dormant, you start over again. But that's something that I noticed down here. I don't know if that's the case everywhere, but here in Serendipity, that happened pretty much every single year since these grapes have produced. So let me show you a close-up of what I'm talking about. And if I wind up finding more bunches on the Thompson seedless, I'll try and give you footage of that, but we'll see. I'm looking around. And by the way, some of these grapes were planted as bare roots. Well, all of these grapes were planted as bare roots. There's 2 per trellis, one on either side. One of them was from a nursery, a small business in Texas called Nursery. And then the other one was a bare root from Walmart for like $5, $6. And I planted them just because I wanted to see how they performed against each other and whether the Walmart ones were any good, because they were so inexpensive that I didn't know whether they would even stay alive or produce anything. And the Walmart ones actually started thriving a lot faster than the ones that I bought from the nursery. So that was pretty cool to be able to see. That way, in case you guys are ever on a really tight budget and you guys just happen to come across some from Walmart or Lowe's or something, you guys can maybe try them out if you want to. But so far, I'm not able to find any of those small clusters on the Thompson seedless, but I know for a fact that I had noticed some a few weeks ago. It's just that there's so many vines everywhere that they're hard to spot right now. But here on the flame seedless, there's 2 of them right here, as you can see. Isn't that so cool? I think the birds are even starting to peck at some of them. But yeah, I already harvested my grapes for this year, so I'm happy. I got a really, really huge harvest this year. Honestly, it was quite literally the best grape harvest I've ever had. I made a lot of mistakes in the past. I've made a lot of mistakes in the past on how I prune them, how I thin them, and this year I tried to fix a lot of those mistakes. And for my flame seedless, trying to rectify a lot of the mistakes that I made previously definitely worked in my favor, because I got these beautiful huge clusters in the grapes where the grapes were delicious. They actually ripened. They were a lot bigger than they were last year. So I still have to share that with you guys. Maybe by the time you guys see this video, I will already have shared it with you. But yeah, I'm really happy. One thing I did notice this year is with my Thompson seedless, because these are cane pruned, and my flames. Oh, look, look, look. Here's one of the clusters. Hold on. Here's one of the clusters. How cool is that? And then look, there's a couple of other ones starting to form. And I know for a fact that there was actually ones that were bigger and more far along, but I don't know where I saw them. There's so many vines everywhere that they could just be, that they're probably just hiding somewhere else. But yeah, isn't that so cool? So anyways, with the Thompson seedless, one of the biggest mistakes that I made is I still need practice on cane pruning, because last year I feel like I got a lot more bunches. This year I didn't get quite as many bunches, but the bunches that I did get did look like better. I feel the grapes were bigger, they were more uniform, but there just wasn't quite as many of them. And there were some canes that could have produced these gorgeous big beautiful grapes, but unfortunately I didn't tie them back as soon as I should have. And then during really heavy winds, the canes, because they're so green, just snapped off, and I lost all of the grapes that were going to grow from them. All of the clusters that were already forming, which were some of the biggest clusters of the year. So anyways, let me show you the last few plants here in the heart of Serendipity. I know that with the sunlight, it might be a little bit hard to tell, but this is what the view looks like as you're walking into the main garden, or the heart of Serendipity. And then over here I have some coral vine, and this coral vine is started from seed. It's a very beautiful vine. The flowers on it are super cute, and I actually had these growing somewhere else, but I transplanted the tubers over here, and now as you can see, they've really taken off, and I'm gonna leave these behind for the new homeowners. Over here I have a, what is this called? Oh, I forget what the plant is. I'm gonna remember it later on, but I got it from Gardener's Supply and I planted it out here and it's thriving, so I'm gonna leave it as well. But what I really wanted to show you was my Don Juan climbing roses, which are starting to bloom again. Look, I planted these in memory of my mom because red roses were her favorite, and you guys know I love climbers. As you can see, there's more blooms up there, and the homeowners love plants and they really loved the roses, so these are staying behind because they're planted in the ground. But I do plan on growing some more red roses for my mom. The ones over here are also beginning to bloom, and oh my gosh, look up there. Do you see how beautiful? And that's they've flushed out several times this year, and they finally made it up the trellis. They've connected at the very top, so this is just going to be such a beautiful sight for the new homeowners. I was able to experience the blooming of these roses this year finally. It took several years for them to recover. Well, yeah, I guess to recover and to establish, because I bought them from Lowe's and I moved them around a few times before I finally settled on this location. And look how stunning they are. Look, and the canes are so thick and established, so I can't dig them up. I feel like they love this spot, and I'm better off just starting over. And then from this you can kind of see what Arch Rose Claire looks like from the side. It's pretty wild right now, but I love the fact that you still have these pathways that you can walk through. When I prune them back, it looks a lot tidier right now since everything's a little bit wild. It's kind of out of control, but it's still very pretty. Now this is the very last part. I don't know how long this video is now. My throat feels all itchy. My throat feels all itchy and I'm tired and it's hot, but we're almost done, I promise. This is Fig Alley, and I call it Fig Alley because the majority of all the plants here are figs, minus these first three. So the first tree right here is called a Tropic White Guava, and I bought this one at Lowe's. I feel like the majority of the trees that I have in all the garden I bought at Lowe's. There's just a couple here and there that I bought either online or like at different nurseries, but it's very few compared to the amount that I purchased at Lowe's. Mostly because I feel like at Lowe's I was able to find very, very inexpensive trees at the time that I bought them. Nowadays, the price has definitely gone up, so maybe you're better off buying them in smaller nurseries, but at the time I wasn't paying very much for these. I think for this one I paid what, like $20-25 or so, but it was a lot smaller. So this is a guava. I'm definitely taking it with me. I've tried the fruit. It is delicious. This year it didn't bloom just like the other guavas on the other side of Serendipity, and I think that's because of the shade cloth maybe. I'm not sure. But the tree itself has put on quite a bit of growth. It's really nice and green. This is a tree that I mentioned before, how the bark was falling off and I thought there was something wrong with the tree, but it was just a tree maturing and expanding, and so it was shedding its bark and then it'll just make new one. Behind it is a Florida Prince peach, and this tree is actually a grafted tree that I grafted myself. It was my first ever graft, and it was the only successful graft that I've ever been able to do, but I haven't really practiced much since then. I think I tried grafting this one. I tried a little bit on some avocados, and then I tried practicing a little bit on my Santa Rosa plum. But I mean, I tried grafting the other ones during the summertime, which is a horrible idea. This one, I think I tried to do it during early spring or so. But I took a little piece from my other Florida Prince peach tree that you saw, and I grafted it onto a Contender peach. And the reason I did that is because the Contender peach required too many chill hours for the low desert. It was never going to produce, and it was a dwarf variety that I had purchased. It was really small, it wasn't growing much, and then once I learned a little bit more about chill hours, I realized, oh my gosh, this tree's never going to produce anything. So instead of just tossing it, I thought, I'm just gonna practice grafting on it. I'm gonna take a piece of my other peach tree, I'm gonna graft it on here and see what happens. If it doesn't work, it's fine. The tree was never gonna produce anyways. And if it does work, then that would be pretty cool. But the chances of that working my first time is pretty slim. And thankfully it did work. The graft itself is not like the best graft ever because it was my first try, but now I have this tree that's taller than I am now. And this year, I think it produced 1 or 2 pieces of fruit, which is so cool. It only produced a couple of blooms because it's still a pretty new tree, but the fact that it produced at all was pretty cool. It does have a little bit of dieback here and there, some branches that dried up, but for the most part the tree is doing amazing. It's putting on new growth, and now that it has a lot more branches, I think over the next few years we're definitely going to get a lot more fruit from it. And overall, now that it's gone through the summer, I think it's in better condition than the Florida Prince peach, but because this one is a completely different shape, I feel like I can sort of shape this one however I want. Like if I want to train it as an espalier, if I want to grow it up in arch trellis, whatever I want to do, I feel like I have a lot more liberty to do that with this one. With the other one that I showed you earlier, I tried to prune it so that it's more of an open vase and I want to keep that shape. With this one, I think I want to grow it a little bit differently. Like I want to let it get taller for sure, but we'll just see once we move up north. I'll show you a little bit closer in a moment, but then the tree next to it is a lemon guava. I don't know if I'm gonna take this one with me. I think I want to. It's another guava, but it's different. The fruit on it is very, very small. This tree is one that struggled for a while, mostly because it did fine during the cooler months, but during the summer, it would constantly fry and die back. It had a lot of fruit at one point, all the fruit completely scorched and turned into rocks. And there was even a time where I thought I was gonna lose the whole tree. But after moving it around and trying to find a better microclimate for it, it started coming back to life. And this year, one thing that I did differently is I switched all of these trees, and instead of having them be up against a cinder block wall, I switched them over to the side of the house. And I did that so that they could get a little bit more, I don't know, I did that so that they could be in a little bit of a better microclimate and stay cooler versus being up against a cinder block wall. And it totally worked. At one point, I even had them with a little bit of shade cloth on. And even now that the shade cloth has been off for a few months at this point, the trees are still thriving. They're looking fantastic. The fig trees are massive. I'm going to leave some of the fig trees for the new homeowners. I don't know which ones or how many, but I offered some to my mother-in-law, and I'm going to leave some for the people here, and I'm going to take a couple with me up north. And then eventually I want to buy more cuttings of rare figs and propagate them with you guys and start the whole process over. That way I can show you guys how to do it, because all of the fig trees that you guys see behind me, I started from cuttings that I bought online from Figaholics. So yeah, that's the plan for now. Now I'm going to give you a little bit of a close-up before I head inside, because I've been out here for far too long and I have a lot to do still. So this is the Tropic White Guava. I've tried the fruit, delicious. I still love the Mexican cream a lot better, but this one is still super, super yummy. Very fragrant, very sweet. The flesh is a little bit more firm. It has more of like a crunch to it, but it has that classic guava flavor, except way more potent than the one that I buy at the store. And it's just, it's amazing. That's not a bloom, is it? No, that's a little leaf. I thought maybe it could be a bloom. Oh, no, no, no. It is going to start blooming. Look. Look. Wow. Cool. Maybe, I wonder if it just wasn't blooming because the shade cloth was on. I don't know. But because we are going to go up north, I don't know if anything will actually even ripen. And then this is the grafted tree. That is my first ever graft, as you can see. Not perfect, but it worked. And then this is the tree itself. It definitely needs to branch out along this area, but I mean, it's still a pretty new tree, so we'll see. And then this right here is a lemon guava. At one point, this one was super crooked. You can still see it right there. So I chopped off a portion of it so it could grow a little bit more straight, and that's exactly what it's starting to do. The fruit on it, I have tried before. It is really, really good. It doesn't have a very strong guava flavor like some of the other varieties. It tastes more like, it's sweet with like the teeniest, tiniest hint of tartness, but it doesn't taste like other guavas. Still really yummy though, so maybe I will take it with me. We'll just see. And then the rest of these trees are figs, and they're flushing out more figs. I did get to harvest some figs earlier in the year, but there was also a lot of them that just dried up and fell off at one point. Like they desiccated. And then others that the birds got to. But it looks like they're producing again, so that's a really, really good sign. And so far, I haven't lost any fig trees. This is one that had died back last year. I pruned it back and just let one trunk grow again. The trunk got huge, as tall as all of the other trees, but it was still pretty green. And then once the shade cloth came off and it got full sun, it died back too. And I chopped it down, as you can see right there. And there's all these other shoots growing from the roots. So I'm just gonna keep one of them and I'll just give this tree away, or maybe I'll just leave it here. We'll see. And then those are the other figs, as you can see right there. All right, guys, so that is the last garden tour I'm gonna do. At the very end, once we move everything out, right before we leave the house, I'll try and just show you guys a quick little overview of what the yard looks like without all of the trees, so you can kind of gauge how big my yard actually is. But it's not big at all. I just have it jam-packed full of plants. So thank you for watching this garden tour, and next time I see you, hopefully I'm at the new house. And I was able to learn a lot here in Serendipity Zone 9B, and now I can't wait to learn even more in Serendipity Zone 7B. Bye, see you later. Oh, wait. And before I let you go, look at the mango leaves. Look how beautiful, look how tall it is. Oh, so striking.